Yeah, we're ready. I don't know if Berkeley's back yet.
Sorry, I literally just got back. Give me just 1 second.
Oh, what topic was chosen for this round, by the way?
Are we unmuted? We chose rare earth elements.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, I'm ready.
Cool. In that case, is there anyone not ready? Sounds good. The plan, the United States federal government should substantially increase its investment in rare earth elements mining by investing $1 billion into agro mining and solvency. One plan passes through normal means the money goes through the Pentagon RE grant system, which is the only existing program for the distribution of funds for RE mining. B is where this is a weird topical increase because we're using an existing mechanism. C is the only topical form of only plants can directly mine REs. Other operations can only mine rare earth minerals. 2 is that agro mining is the process of using plants to mine minerals from the soils. Fast-growing plants or fungi that naturally accumulate high levels of certain rare earth minerals, like a fern, a Dicynopterus linearis, which can pull huge amounts of lanthanum from the ground. There are plant areas with a large RE deposit. The elements in the plants are then processed by incineration or by leaching, in which the plant is submerged in an aqueous solution that allows the metals to seep out of it. Three's investment solves the reason agro mining hasn't been implemented is only because lack of funding, not lack of efficacy or efficiency. A is that agro mining has been used in small-scale operations in the 90s with great success. One study found that agro mining could extract more than 85% of all element deposits in an area without ever breaking ground. Visa the plant is substantial. Total value of imports the U.S. spent on REs in 2020 was $170 million. Towards agro mining is sustainable, poses exponential fewer environmental hazards by using hyperaccumulator plants. The process bypasses the need to chemically separate the pure ore from surrounding materials. Instead, pure ore is available once plants are incinerated. B is no need to open a physical mine to retrieve any form of deposit, which preserves local ecosystems. Hyperaccumulating plants can produce high yields of rare earth elements with a soil concentration of the mineral that is now as low as 0.1%. C is plants can become customized to diverse climates. There are over 450 species that are hyperaccumulators of cerium and yttrium alone that thrive in a variety of climates. These agro mining does not replace food crops or disrupt agricultural production in Greece. For example, hyperaccumulators can be grown alongside olive trees, and they increase crop yields by improving soil quality. Most hyperaccumulator plants are extremely nutrient efficient, so they don't require fertilizers. It can also rehabilitate where established mines have already disrupted the environment. A current mining system employs strip mining that decimates the ecosystem and leaves the soil and landscape barren. Agro mining provides initial vegetative stabilization with the added advantage of a longer-term income stream. In New Caledonia, for example, co-planting of a hyperspecies with a nitrogen fixing plant species such as Fabid. Shay's like the scientific name, I have no clue how to say it, has been conceived as a viable option for getting rehabilitation starting on mine spoils. 5 is according to the USGS, there are signed significant deposits of REs in 14 states, but not all use agro mining. Our affirmative would work at 2 sites in Florida, 2 sites in California. These are the only locations where the conditions are fertile enough for agro mining plants to grow right now. Advantage 1 is uniqueness. One current mining techniques are used hazardous chemicals like blue water supplies in the environment. Mining has severely damaged surface vegetation, causing soil erosion, pollution, acidification, reduce or even eliminated food crop output. Bees mining plants typically produce wastewater with concentration of radioactive residues. There are two primary methods for mining. Both really test toxic chemicals. First is going to be removing topsoil and creating a leaching pond where chemicals are added to the extracted earth and to separate materials. These are full of toxic chemicals that leak into groundwater. Bees. The second method of drilling is drilling using pipes and hose pumps and pumping chemicals into the earth. Threes mines and ores are deposits locally located disproportionately on wait, we don't need that. Okay. 4, 3 is the ecosystems already fragile from the effects of climate change. A is climate change interacts with other human structures such as development to add more stress on ecosystems
of the human body and how it can be morphed, which means it's necessarily key. The third argument is tantalum is key to electronic equipment such as capacitors, resistors, making telegram also key to developing memory devices, making both of these elements integral to the specific technology. The Z subpoint is the impacts. The first argument is that environmental destruction necessarily causes extinction. The A subpoint is that necessarily without decreases significantly the total number of CO2 in the atmosphere, it causes rampant ocean acidification, which kills off ocean fisheries, which the majority of the population rely on for sustenance. It causes resource wars that eventually cause extinction. The B subpoint also is generally just as things get hotter and hotter, it causes massive wildfires in the Amazon, which is a huge carbon buffer for the entire Earth, which eventually makes all life untenable as things just get hotter and hotter, and classic feedback loops that only make things worse. The C subpoint is that you should prefer extinction as a prior question. It is literally inevitable in the status quo, which means that it comes future, which means that maintaining the human rights is always going to be a prior question. The last argument is that necessarily that this is the key internal to resolving for structural violence. That point A is that the move towards the removal of the corporeal body and introduction of the cyborg vision allows us to resolve for things like identity conflicts that cause massive divides in the status quo, because it allows us to remove the eradication of difference through transhumanistic technology. Underview. The role of the battle is to endorse the fiat of policy option that produces the best material conditions. Once again, the role of the battle is to endorse the fiat of policy option that produces the best material conditions. The first argument is fiat. The ace of points that fiat is a test of hypothetical advocacy, advanced speech acts. The base of points that fiat being illusory doesn't matter. Mirages, dreams, and hallucinations are all illusory, but they can still motivate action and create affective responses. The second argument is that fiat is good. The ace of points that fiat allows the oppressed to make demands upon the state independent of the state and conceive of a world where their demands are met. The base points that is critical to resolving harms. The question of it ought not be how great a utopia would be, but rather what material changes we can do to move towards that utopia. The ace of points that action spec is key. Fiat intrinsically requires the specification of who will take what action, absent identification of those two elements. It's impossible to predict outcomes, which means you vote an AF on presumption. The third argument is that policymaking is good. The ace point that policymaking is both particular and structural. It's not reform or revolution, it's reform and revolution, which justifies the perm as a key starting point. The base point also is that it's not static. There are organizations of power, which means it's only a question of what that power is used for. And we're open to flex.
So, like, we dig a hole to extract the rems.
Yeah, we mine rems.
We got
Okay.
Or rees. We mine rems.
Rees. Not rems, sorry, rees.
UN bad does not prove that the plan is bad. Focusing on pragmatic reform, vague alternatives, cause totalitarianism, and mass violence, localized lens of policy cause, making can begin to find ethical and solvent alternatives to state violence means that there's a fascism internal impact to any rejection of the affirmative, and Trump and Brexit make this uniquely key. Lack of engagement breeds material violence and fascist takeover. We also say is obsession with magnitude reflects a privileged conception of security that locks in the status quo. The 1% risk of any impact is methodological blackmail that prevents you from stopping to very real genocide. This creates a perpetual divide between us and the enemy that means constantly.
I'm going to do 3 off, and then I'm going to put the framework on top, and then the rest of the cases top down. Is anyone not ready?
Secret back channels between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray region?
No, because they refuse to consider Tigray individuals to be.
Okay, so how do you know that?
Because that's an official statement. They consider the Tigray individuals to be impure.
Yeah, they literally say that they're impure and that they are not worthy of any type of recognition. Why would you give a back channel to someone that you feel is subhuman or non-human?
First place is going to be a vote for fairness. The fairness is necessarily a key to being able to have any access in the round. The first place is going to be a vote for education. That education is the only portable skill that will leave the round of issues for competing interpretations. Competing interpretations is key to prevent judgment intervention. This is operator because we need to understand the parameters of the PMC before we're able to have the rest of the debate. The first is that UN credibility. The first argument is that UN international credibility is low. The errors as of December 2020, about a quarter of countries haven't paid their dues. The unpaid dues in 2020 resulted in a budget shortfall of $5.1 billion. This hampered the UN's ability to conduct operations.
Children attempts to paper over the inherent gap in signification, generating structural violence against current employee points the fantasy of non-lacking childhood impossible for the heteronormative society to refuse the acknowledging of the possibility of such equality queerness as a barrier to realization of fantasies such as the queer body is constructed and enjoying expensive the child will be born. So politics of futurity valorizes reproductive heterogeneous sex, subordinated gay sex to nothing more than meaningless acrobatics. The C point is a refusal of the queerness to occupy a single stable category perceived as a threat to stability. The D point is look to the discourse on AIDS and
tend to go to military securitization. This is going to be the next DA, which is that REEs are killed a key to the military industrial complex. If you're going to mine a whole bunch of them and just quote unquote leave them to sit there, someone's going to pick them up and use them to make weapons. What are those weapons going to be used for? Further colonization, further oppression, particularly towards the indigenous people, because you're destroying government buildings in the name of indigenous people. This is going to be the next DA. The next DA is going to be a U.S. lashback DA. Look to how in every single movement, when white people show up and start destroying things, the indigenous people or the people of color are the ones who get all of the lashback from the state, and massive amounts of violence are done against them. Things like Guantanamo Bay, where we just abduct people and commit massive amounts of violence against them and strip them of their autonomy and dehumanization, means that the affirmative not only can never solve for its own impacts and does nothing, but is an actually harmful way to think about the world and imagine fiat of being carried out. Second, we're going to say that they have no solvency. Just because you destroy some land underneath some buildings,
to another building.
They just either move to another building, and also you're still destroying indigenous land. There could be people buried under those buildings. You don't know the sanctity of the ground they were built on. You are just destroying indigenous land.
start on the first interpretation. The articulation here is going to be we say that we are, like, our definition of REs is necessarily going to be things that are hard to find, are fractionally difficult to find in the U.S. service. We say that REs are literally fractionally uncommon or hard to find in the United States, which is probably why there's a shortage right now. They say that it doesn't matter because there's different starting point definitions. No, we say that interpretation is absolutely a question.
Futurity, but futurity is key to secure material gains for the queer. For anti-black, this is a better explanation of state logic. The idea that queer is the location of logic, that dire state action assumes that the queer is an intelligible identity, but this fails as an analysis of race. Demarcation always comes first when framing humanism because the black body is an object by which you base your understanding of human and non-human. Two implications. One, there also is because it misdiagnoses the base of humanism, which undermines the other, who is otherized. Second, the black body is unaccounted for throughout their method because black futurity is key to gratuitous violence, meaning that they recreate anti-black violence, and that's the reason to reject on face. And the third point here is that we say we're wrong if you want, but Lacan is a huge portion of your literature. Okay.
Yeah, go to the links. You can extend across this route as a gosh darn simulation that this thing natures and corrupts debate into an experience where normal speech acts become a mockery of themselves. I.e., the 1AC is a mockery of decoloniality instead of an actual act of resistance. It's just another way for the world of propaganda to interpolate us as its actors. This round is simulation because we've imagined it before, just mindlessly repeating pre-written scripts. We've debated y'all on this sort of thing, Pacific on Rees 3 times. All of yesterday was such a Pacific versus Whitman, all this stuff. We were doomed to repetition of fruitless discourse that doesn't reflect
which probably means people like to invest in things like MPL, that their articulation is going to be that the defense industry is necessarily going to get better because they have more REs, but the turn here is going to be consumer confidence. We say that right now the status quo inflation is necessarily being driven.
Cool. I'm bad at flowing. You said that the impact of the UN credibility dissad was inevitable, right?
I said the
interpretation proper mining means the extraction of minerals from the Earth's surface via mines. The violation contextualizes the the violations that you extract via plants. So the argument is that plants are distinct from mines. You have a wheat meat that says that plants are functionally mines, but a couple of responses. Number one is that, remember, the violation contextualizes the interpretation. The reason why is that the plants we contextualize via the violation that plants and mines are distinct, i.e. all of these standards level offenses reasons why plants are still unfair, even if it actually meets the definition of mine. Prefer the spirit of the interpretation because otherwise you get frivolous wheat meats that don't respond to the substance of these standards level offense that we are reading. Second is that the standards are still dissets to your wheat meat because even if your wheat meat is
this, you might go for the articulation that the United States pulls out, which resolves any form of hegemony in the world. The United States hegemony is necessarily predicated on perception, i.e. how NATO necessarily views the United States. This is the link articulation that is going to be killer on the affirmative. You've conceded the credibility is the key internally to the United States hegemony. I'll do some work here. The first is going to be power projection is necessarily predicated on the ability to work with allies. Turkey houses B-61 gravity bombs within its borders, which indicates the ability for the United States to communicate, and the ability for the United States to power project through other countries indicates the only method the United States to have to be able to be a global hegemon is the indicate when that mass genocide is necessarily on CNN, and that people are necessarily being able to make predictions, i.e. that you say yourself that the Tigray region is necessarily distinct from Ethiopia and that they cannot communicate, indicates that we can make predictions about the way in which the international order works. You've also conceded Gabe's articulation that nuts theory, nuclear utilization targeting strategy necessarily is the way the United States operates, which indicates there is absolutely a potential for great war, great power war, and nuclear escalation, which means that you are way behind in the.
This was the majority of their PNC. They're going to go for this articulation that they're a particularism, which means that even though there's specific bad things that happen, it doesn't work. We need is going to shield us because you consider you're not garnering any offense extra topically, but more importantly, you are particularly bad, particularly because the case turn is on fire in a world where you increase genocide not only via Seaburns but also within Nagorno-Karabakh because of the increase of conventional weapon usage. You're always going to be much worse. This indicates it's not never going to.
Also, they're like not competitive because they can both be true at the same time. Like we both have the definitions happen at the same time, which means they're not competitive.
Revolutionary fiat because our ethos is incoherent. There's absolutely
no word as to how our ethos is incoherent. They say we have to smash they have to smash the symbols of the empire. We say that the affirmative and its use of revolutionary fiat is a form of smashing a literal symbol of the empire, which is the Capitol Hill, which means that our ethos is definitely consistent. This is the literal.
It's going to continue to happen. If anything, this means that it's going to be much worse because the collateral damage is going to be way higher, which means that you're not able to resolve this. But really, what this debate round is going to come down to is they're going to finally execute this trick that they have in their underview. It's not going to work because they're going to cause extinction in two different.
Good round, y'all.
Then topic literature, you look at the definition of from a legalistic standpoint that from the Department of Energy and EPA, this is most is most really applicable to what we're doing in policy and as policymakers.
Multiple precise definitions. There's literally not. They haven't provided.
Yeah, they say there's multiple precise definitions, but literally not. They give no articulation of other precise definitions. However, we give you the best articulation.
They double turn themselves on the disadvantage. Moreover, they say that mass genocide is occurring now, and that that nuts theory is able to resolve. But we've given you way more warrants on this question. So we're winning an impact turn to their impact framing. So it's gonna be super simple.
Even if nuts theory is going to resolve, since they've conceded that extinction is inevitable under the ISIS.
Since they've conceded that extinction by a great power war is inevitable under the ISIS disadvantage that we're winning a link turn there, that means that this is a non-impact because it happens both in the status quo and in the world of the affirmative. Not reading a counterplan was the worst decision the LOC necessarily made. So let's go to the disadvantage. Number one, we're winning a terminal defense on the uniqueness question about how U.S. credibility is low right now because of Ukraine. They're not able to stop that genocide. That is predictive. Moreover,